Most men over 50 quietly sense it. Something has shifted in the last few decades, and it's not just technology or culture, it's people, it's relationships, it's the way modern women behave, react, communicate, and connect. And the strangest part is this: every man sees the change clearly, yet very few can explain it. But what if the truth has been sitting in front of us this entire time? What if modern women aren't acting this way because they're bad, or broken, or selfish, but because psychology predicted this shift a long time ago? And what if the real reason behind today's relationship chaos is something men were never meant to take the blame for? Before we dive in, I want you to imagine this. A woman tells a man she wants a strong partner, a reliable partner, a man who can lead. Yet the moment he shows that strength, she calls him controlling. The moment he shows direction, she calls him stubborn. And the moment he sets a boundary, she says he's toxic. Why does this happen? Why are modern women responding so sharply, so defensively, and sometimes so aggressively to the very qualities they used to admire in men? To understand the psychology behind modern women's behavior, we must go back to a simple observation made by Dr. Carl Jung. He wrote that people don't react to reality, they react to their unhealed experiences. This explains why a woman can meet the kindest man, yet treat him as if he's the same man who hurt her years ago. Today's dating culture didn't create damaged mindsets. Damaged mindsets created today's dating culture. A woman who's been failed by unreliable men will assume every man is unreliable. A woman who's been abandoned will test every man to see if he leaves. A woman who's been betrayed will search for evidence that you're unfaithful even where none exists. And this is where the modern world adds fuel to the fire. Social media, endless validation, comparison culture, and constant overstimulation have turned emotional wounds into emotional explosions. Men over 50 often describe modern women with the same 3 words: impatient, defensive, and unpredictable. But underneath those reactions are psychological triggers that have been studied for over 40 years. For example, best-selling relationship researcher Dr. Sue Johnson found that people today are more emotionally reactive, not because they're bad, but because they feel unsafe in relationships. This means many modern women aren't acting difficult. They're acting scared, but in a way that looks like anger, attitude, and entitlement. A woman who feels unsafe emotionally becomes controlling. A woman who feels unseen becomes argumentative. A woman who fears rejection becomes demanding. And here's the part most men don't know. Modern women are not acting like this because of men. They're acting like this because their expectations have risen while their emotional stability has fallen. When expectations go up but emotional maturity doesn't, relationships break. Now let's talk about something every older man has seen. Many modern women push a man away, then blame him for leaving. Why? Psychology calls this the protest behavior cycle. When a woman feels insecure, instead of asking for reassurance directly, she pushes, tests, criticizes, or withdraws. Not because she wants the man gone, but because she wants proof that he'll stay. But when a man is older, wiser, calmer, and more self-respecting, he doesn't chase these emotional storms anymore. He simply steps back. And that's when modern women panic. They confuse a man's emotional maturity with emotional detachment. They confuse his boundaries with abandonment. They confuse his silence with punishment. But what they don't realize is powerful. Older men have learned peace, and they're no longer willing to trade it for chaos. There is another layer, one that men rarely talk about but every man feels. The modern world has given women endless support, encouragement, and entitlement, but almost no accountability. A woman can insult a man and call it honesty. She can shame a man and call it self-expression. She can reject a man harshly and call it standards. But if a man expresses his preferences or boundaries, he gets labeled judgmental, controlling, or old-fashioned. Men feel this double standard deeply, and it's silently pushing them away. When men stop chasing, stop arguing, stop proving themselves, modern women interpret it as disrespect. But it's not disrespect, it's exhaustion. Men are tired of feeling like they must fight a battle they never started. A therapist once said something profound. People act out when their needs aren't being met, but they act toxic when they don't understand their own needs. Many modern women have become disconnected from what they truly want. They say they want a strong man, then push away strength. They say they want emotional support, then attack the man who provides it. They say they want stability, but chase stimulation. Over time, their behavior isn't the result of consciousness, it's the result of confusion. And here is the surprising truth. The more confused a woman is about her needs, the more complicated she becomes in a relationship. Today, many women mistake independence for emotional invincibility. They were taught they don't need men, yet deep inside their biology tells them they do. The conflict between what nature wants and what society teaches creates internal chaos. And when a woman feels chaos inside, she creates chaos outside. She takes it out on the people closest to her. This psychological tug-of-war is why modern women are harder to understand, harder to satisfy, and harder to communicate with. They are fighting a cultural script that tells them to be strong, while their biology still wants partnership, safety, and connection. And men? Men are paying the price for this conflict. Men are blamed for problems they didn't create. Men are attacked for boundaries they didn't intend to break. Men are judged for emotions they were never taught to express. This is why many men over 50 simply step back and protect their inner peace. They're not withdrawing because they're cold. They're withdrawing because they're tired of being misunderstood. Let's continue by looking deeper at what's really driving modern women's behavior. If we strip away the frustration, the emotional waves, the confusion, and the sensitivity, what remains is something very human: fear. Modern women are terrified of disappointment. They're terrified of choosing the wrong partner. They're terrified of giving too much and receiving too little. They're terrified of losing their independence. And most surprisingly, they're terrified of being truly seen. In psychology, this is known as vulnerability fear. When someone carries emotional wounds, they hide their true self. Not because they want to deceive, but because they're afraid that their true self won't be enough. Modern women are performing strength, not living it. This explains why so many women today fluctuate between confidence and insecurity. They appear bold one moment, then fragile the next. They seem empowered, yet their emotional reactions reveal something different. Dr. Harriet Lerner, a leading psychologist in emotional communication, explains that when people can't regulate their emotions, they try to regulate others. That explains why many modern women try to control men, because controlling a man feels safer than facing their own uncertainty. When men stop chasing, women lose that control. And when they lose that feeling of control, their reactions intensify. This is why the moment a man distances himself, even slightly, modern women often escalate. They test harder. They push more intensely. They blame more aggressively. Not because they want to destroy the relationship, but because they feel it slipping from their hands. Men see these reactions as attacks. Women experience them as panic. Two different emotional worlds colliding under the same roof. And unless someone steps in with clarity and calmness, everything falls apart. But here's the tragedy. Men and women are not enemies. They are simply out of emotional sync. Women today are overwhelmed with expectations. To be successful, independent, attractive, emotionally intelligent, financially stable, empowered, assertive, nurturing, confident, accommodating, and strong at the same time. It's too much. No human being can carry that many expectations without cracking. So they crack. And men get blamed for the pieces. Now let's talk about accountability, a missing ingredient in modern relationships. For generations, men were taught responsibility from childhood. Fix things, protect the family, work hard, stay calm, don't complain. Women, however, were taught emotional expression, not emotional accountability. This gap has grown wider in the modern world. When something goes wrong, many women react emotionally, and society shields them from consequences. If a man loses control, he's punished. If a woman loses control, she's comforted. Over time, this creates a pattern where women never learn how to manage conflict with maturity. They use emotional expression as a weapon instead of a tool, not intentionally, but unconsciously. And that unconscious behavior is destroying connections. You see, real love requires two emotionally responsible adults, but many modern relationships consist of one calm partner and one reactive partner. And when the calm partner stops chasing, everything collapses. Men stop comforting extreme reactions, stop tolerating emotional storms, stop absorbing blame that was never theirs. And when they stop, modern women interpret it as betrayal. But it's not betrayal. It's self-protection, something men rarely practiced in their younger years but deeply value as they grow older. There's another psychological factor at play: overstimulation. Social media has rewired modern women's emotional systems. Constant attention, constant validation, constant comparison, constant entertainment. It has lowered their tolerance for emotional discomfort. Any disagreement feels like an attack. Any boundary feels like rejection. Any emotional distance feels like abandonment. Their nervous system is primed for conflict, not connection. And the men who grew up before this era? They're not compatible with this emotional overstimulation. Older men bring patience, logic, and steadiness. Modern women bring reaction, intensity, and pressure. The emotional rhythms no longer match. And yet, beneath all of this chaos, something hopeful exists. Women are not acting this way because they are bad. They're acting this way because they are overwhelmed. A woman overwhelmed by expectations becomes emotionally unpredictable. A woman overwhelmed by fear becomes defensive. A woman overwhelmed by independence becomes isolated. And a woman overwhelmed by society becomes disconnected from herself. So what can men do? The answer is not to argue with modern women, not to fight them, not to correct them, and not to rescue them. The answer is simple: stay grounded. When a man stays emotionally grounded, he doesn't get pulled into a woman's emotional storm. Neuroscience confirms this. Human emotions synchronize. When one partner is calm, the other eventually regulates. But when a man chases chaos with more chaos, both people drown. Men today are finally learning this lesson, which is why so many are stepping back, conserving energy, and protecting peace. And what happens when women realize men will no longer engage emotionally on command? They are forced to confront their own inner world. They are forced to take accountability. They are forced to face the discomfort they used to project onto men. This discomfort is painful, but it's also transformational. Many women eventually soften because emotional storms cannot survive without an emotional audience. When men stop feeding the chaos, women must face themselves. And that is the core truth psychology reveals. Modern women are acting this way because they are emotionally overloaded, socially overstimulated, psychologically unbalanced by expectations, and desperate for connection they don't know how to maintain. Men didn't cause this. Society did. Culture did. Fear did. And now both genders are suffering. But understanding this truth makes everything clearer. Men finally understand the psychology behind modern women's behavior. They stop blaming themselves. They stop doubting their worth. They stop absorbing emotional responsibility that was never theirs. And in that clarity, something powerful happens. Peace returns. If you found clarity, comfort, or insight in this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more understanding to a world that desperately needs it.